everyone, this is Maki. The talk show for the movie Gundam Seed Freedom has been released on Japan's official media. It's a special where Mr. Mitsuo Fukuda, the director, and Mr. Satoshi Shigeta, the chief mechanical director, answer questions sent in by fans. What kind of questions and answers did you discuss? Well, here's my personal impression from watching the show. It seemed like they chose to answer lighter questions overall. Maybe they didn't pick the more technical or niche ones. I had submitted a question as well. One of them was in a panic when she imagined Cal-re as Athran described her. But why did he have such a calm, gentlemanly demeanor when talking to Agnes? It may have been too specific to get an answer, though. Of course, there's always a chance it could be addressed in the future. Now, let's dive into the second episode. First up is a fun question. Do Mr. Fukuda and Mr. Shigeta have any favorite mechs? Mr. Fukuda replied, I put a lot of thought into the design of all the mechs that appear in the series. I have a special attachment to each and every mecha. So there isn't really any particular mech that I feel particularly attached to. Upon hearing Mr. Fukuda's answer, Mr. Shigeta also shared his thoughts. I don't really have any favorites either. The challenge or ease of directing them varies from mech to mech, and that influences how I view them. He continued, even if you have a beautifully designed mech, sometimes when you place it on the screen, parts of it end up in shadow or hard to see for the viewers, which can make it difficult to direct. Then Mr. Susumu Fujita from the CGI team chimed in with a follow-up question. Are there any mechs that are particularly easy to create cool scenes with? Mr. Fukuda replied, mechs with flashy wings are easier to direct. Mr. Shigeta agreed, adding Strike Freedom, Rising Freedom, and Mighty Strike Freedom all have a cool look, but it was difficult to get the wings to balance beautifully on screen. The original Freedom, when it first came out, was easier to make look stunning. Mr. Shigeta went on to talk about a mech he found challenging. To be honest, I struggled with Strike Gundam. Some of my colleagues in the industry would ask, why do you say that? My answer was always because as a director, it's a really difficult design to work with. He continued, during the early stages of the CTV anime, I tried different methods to figure out how best to direct Strike Gundam. The next fun question was then read out. What was the inspiration behind the scenes where the emblem is prominently displayed on the forehead of a mobile suit? Mr. Shigeta, who was in charge of the mechanics direction, took the lead in answering. When creating a scene, it adds more impactful objects on the screen, undergo dramatic size changes. Even if you move something that doesn't change size quickly, it won't feel as powerful. So we decided to place the camera close to the mechs, including the mobile suits, and then quickly zoom out. He added in robot anime, it's often said that a robot's face or chest is the easiest part to use to express the character's traits. I thought, why not use the forehead of the Gundam as the main visual element? But when I actually tried to zoom in on the Gundam's forehead, I realized that there was nothing there. He then recalled, I remembered how the forehead design of Cal-re-A was so striking, and how the Z of Zeta Gundam was also prominently displayed. So I thought, why not try something similar with the seed? For those who don't know, Cal-re-A is an anime released in 1984 by Sunrise, the same company that owns the Gundam franchise. The Cal-re-A Arc 2 is the heavy metal robot that the protagonist controls in the latter part of the story. In the Cal-re-A universe, heavy metal refers to humanoid robots, similar to how Gundam uses mobile suit. The original story and direction of Cal-re-A was done by Yoshiyuki Tomino, who also directed the first Gundam series. It's one of the classic masterpieces he created. Mr. Shigito explained that Strike Gundam not only inherited elements from the original Gundam, but also carried some DNA from Cal-re-A. In addition, there was an interesting discussion about camera techniques. The use of zoom-ins and zoom-outs may have been particularly inspiring for those working on diamonds or stop-motion animation. Mr. Shigito explained how he pushed the idea of adding lettering to the foreheads of mobile suits. The lettering on the forehead wasn't meant to be a standard feature, but rather something that would only be used on prototype models. When I introduced this idea, the people who design figures and plastic models were concerned. They said adding design details to such a small area makes it harder to design. However, he continued, I felt that if we didn't actively incorporate fresh ideas, the anime wouldn't achieve great results. So, as the head of the mechanics team, I pushed through the idea of adding the writing on the forehead. He went on to tell a similar story. In the first opening sequence of Seed, there's a scene where Strike Gundam's eyes are zoomed in at the very end. We included a detailed depiction of the inner workings of the eyes. It was an experimental attempt to see if we could introduce something visually fresh. However, this led to some confusion among the staff. Apparently, some of the team misunderstood and thought, is the Seed series going to focus on this kind of detailed eye shots? In Seed Freedom, similar close-ups of the eyes were used again, and frankly I felt it was a bit overdone. The eye mechanism zoom-ins, which have become one of the defining visual features accepted by fans of the Seed series, weren't originally intended to become a staple of the animation style. The next fan question was, I'd like to know how the production of Seed Destiny was decided. Mr. Fukuda explained it happened because Seed was commercially successful. Mr. Shigito added during the Seed TV anime, there was a plan to make a movie. However, this concept was later adapted into a TV series, which became the story of Seed Destiny. He continued this idea was proposed when the story of Seed was almost complete. One challenge we faced was that if characters like Kiro left the story, it would be difficult to make the movie. Mr. Fukuda also shared some insights. The original ending of Seed involved the Freedom Gundam exploding. That's why one of the songs on the soundtrack is called Freedom Self-Destructs. However, in the final version, it was Justice Gundam that actually self-destructed. Mr. Shigita joked, I thought there might be some viewers who would say, hey, Freedom didn't explode. It's interesting to learn that Seed Destiny was originally planned as a movie. The element of Seed Freedom that begins with a line from Gilbert Duano may be a remnant of those original plans. The next fun question was, do the battleships Millennium and Cal-re-A have bathrooms similar to the one installed in the Archangel? Mr. Fukuda replied, I believe the Millennium has one installed. However, A bath can only be installed on ships equipped with a gravity block. The next question was, are the pink lines on the prow defender designed with the idea that Lars would pilot it? Or is there some other specific attitude behind it? Mr. Fukuda replied it is correct to interpret it as being designed with Lars in mind. But the reason it glows has a different explanation. Why does it glow? Unfortunately, the show didn't provide any further answers about the glowing pink parts. The next question was, when Mighty Strike Freedom Gundam uses both the Japanese sword and the beam saber at the same time, what details did you pay attention to? Mr. Shigito replied it is quite common to show a Japanese sword held wide to the side, so that was easy to do. However, there is very little precedent for holding both swords in the same direction. A slight change in angle could make the pose look uncool, so I was very careful about the angle and the orientation of the swords. It might be fun to try different poses when showing figures or models with two swords. It might even be a good experience to try Mr. Shigita's Challenge Yourself. A fan sent in a question about the world in the story. After the events of Seed Freedom, was the freeze on campus separations lifted? Did Kira return to her duties as captain? And did Agnes rejoin campus? Mr. Fukuda replied, I believe campus will continue to operate. If it were disbanded, the chaos in the world would probably become even worse. Mr. Shigito added, while the story of Seed Freedom ended on a high note, the turmoil in the world continues. Mr. Fukuda also shared his thoughts. Agnes will be forgiven. That's the direction I want the story to go. That's why I directed the scene where Impulse Gundam reaches out to Agnes. There was also a question about the Black Knight Squad. What is the strength ranking of the 4 pilots in the Black Knight? Mr. Fukuda replied, I think there are differences in their abilities, but I don't think they care much about the ranking. Mr. Shigito added, in the limited running time of the movie, the ranking of their strengths wasn't really a necessary focus. Mr. Fukuda then continued, I would say that their numerical strength is probably higher than that of Shin or Kira. Mr. Shigito laughed and remarked, so you still think Athran is the strongest, huh? Mr. Fukuda replied, Athran doesn't hesitate to do whatever it takes to win. I believe that the most effective way to fight is to defeat the enemy before he even notices you. That's the best kind of victory, one where you protect yourself and minimize damage to your allies. Yoshiyuki Tomino once said Shaw would be the strongest if he put aside his doubts. Ammo would probably be defeated before he even knew what was happening. It seems that Athran is portrayed in a similar light to Shaw. In the story, Shaw struggled with his emotions, hoping for a fair fight with Amuro, but was ultimately defeated. In contrast, Athran does not seem to care about the means as long as it leads to victory. This suggests that protecting the people of Orb and his beloved Kagori is more important to Athran than his own honor. The fact that Athran still has Kagori alive and well, while Shaw has already lost his beloved Lorosu, may be a significant difference between the two. In some ways, Athran's pragmatic mindset mirrors that of Patrick Sauer, willing to do whatever it takes to achieve victory. There were also some comments about the fighting style of the Black Knight Squad. Mr. Ikea, one of the staff members, shared this. The strength of the Black Knight Squad is equal to a battalion of mobile suits. Their immense power allowed them to defend the Foundation Kingdom with only a small number of units. Mr. Fukuda added his thoughts. The Black Knight Squad operates by remotely controlling a large number of mobile suits. They can dive deep into enemy territory, and regular mobile suits can't bring them down. He continued they don't use conventional military tactics. They approach their target, lock on with targeting lasers, and then unleash a barrage of missiles on the enemy. This strategy minimizes their own casualties while maximizing damage to the enemy. From a military perspective, it's the best way to win. This fighting style is somewhat similar to the way Asren prefers to win, as mentioned earlier. When warfare is portrayed with such an emphasis on efficiency, it can come across as devious or even cowardly to the audience. And the remote control tactic is exactly the same one Asren used against Shure. One wonders if Shure, while watching the Black Knights as their commander, secretly thought their message was dishonorable. That concludes the second episode. Did you notice anything? The revelation that the 4 Black Knights are stronger than Kira and the others, at least strength on paper, was certainly intriguing. With such strength, it would be almost impossible for ordinary soldiers to defeat them. Thank you for watching all the way through. See you in the next episode.